Hello, everyone. Welcome. As everyone is piling in, getting settled, I want to welcome you all to our second session of Myotonic Dystrophy in Motion Awareness Month. Excellent. I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Lucy Schiffman, and I am the Senior Manager of Community Engagement here at the Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation. Thank you all again for joining us for our second session of this Myotonic Dystrophy in Motion Awareness Month programming. Today, we're going to hear from Dr. Kristina Kelly about the importance of a well-rounded movement practice, as well as spend some time going over small movements that highlight the 4 pillars of exercise: strength training, cardio, balance, and stretching. Before we begin, I would love to share a little bit about the Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation. We envision a world with treatments and a cure for myotonic dystrophy. Our mission is made up of 3 parts: community, care, and cure. We support and connect the myotonic dystrophy community. We provide resources and advocate for care, and we accelerate research towards treatments and a cure. At MDF, we have a wide variety of resources and support that you can get. I want to just highlight a couple things. We have a lot of toolkits and publications, which you can find on our website. And these include resources for care providers and families that include anesthesia guidelines, the MDF toolkit, clinical care recommendations, and of course, our exercise guide for people living with myotonic dystrophy. We also have an array of support programs. Our support groups are led by trained community volunteers. These programs create safe spaces to network, learn, and share. On our website, you'll find the calendar of events, which has all of our upcoming support groups, conferences, webinars, and more. Lastly, you can also find our digital academy, which has hours of educational and inspirational videos by DM experts that you can watch on demand. Myotonic Dystrophy in Motion Awareness Month is a month-long programming of which we're in the second week. We want to encourage you to join us for our other sessions. Week 3 next week is The Natural World, the Benefits of Nature and Breathwork, which will happen on Wednesday, July 24th. And then we will conclude on week 4 with a motivational Let's Keep It Going virtual Zumba class on Wednesday, July 31st. We also this month have a very exciting special Ask the Expert series on DM and the heart, which will happen on Thursday, July 25th at 4 p.m. Pacific. You have to register separately for this event as it is a bonus webinar, not part of our Myotonic Dystrophy in Motion campaign. I also want to give a highlight some of our amazing Myotonic Dystrophy in Motion merchandise. If you are interested in moving all year, you really don't want to miss out on the opportunity to buy some of this amazing gear. You can see here on the bottom our Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation branded sports gear, as well as on top the limited edition Movement Makes Connections t-shirt that is only available throughout the month of July. So be sure to check those out. Lastly, I do want to thank a couple people, including our movement committee, which are the people behind this amazing month of programming. They came with ideas, and we're really excited to get the community moving. Our movement committee is made up of experts in the field, as well as amazing DM community members. We also want to take a moment to thank our event sponsor, Avidity Biosciences, for making programs like this possible at MDF. I want to encourage all of you to stay connected with MDF, and you can do this by joining our newsletter, signing up to receive our emails, and connecting with us on social media. All of these links are in the chat, and you can be sure to open them up for later use. I want to just touch on one thing. This webinar will be a presentation, and we hope to have time for questions at the end. If you have any questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A function, which you can click on either on the top or bottom of your Zoom screen. Type your question, submit it, and we will see it and hopefully have time for just a few questions at the end. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kristina Kelly, who works at the University of Missouri-Columbia. Dr. Kristina Kelly is one of the MDF Early Career grantees, and her research focuses on understanding and treating motor dysfunction and fatigue in people aging with neuromuscular conditions. She uses clinically relevant methods to study the motor unit and the peripheral and central influences on its function in health and disease across adulthood. Through identification of convergent as well as divergent mechanisms amongst healthy aging and neuromuscular disease populations, her work aims to explain common targets for function preserving or restoring interventions, while also providing insight into the potential need for specialized approaches in disorders of the motor unit. The overall goal of her work is to develop evidence-based, patient-centered therapeutic approaches with emphasis on exercise and healthy behaviors to enhance motor performance and maximize health span. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming Dr. Kristina Kelly.
All right. I'm just going to get a few slides up here, and then we will get the ball rolling. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Chris. I'm really excited to be here to share with you the little things count about some practical ways that you can do exercise and movement within your home. So the plan is that we're just going to go over a few very foundational things to start with to make sure we're all on the same page, and then we'll get right into some of the exercises. I will talk about what you're working on with each exercise and why it's important. I'll demonstrate a lot of different options for doing it. I will then go through one exercise, and you are welcome to join me in doing it with me if you'd like. We don't really need much in the way of equipment today. And then we'll talk about some tips at the very end for how to try to make movement a habit in your life. And then, as Lucy said, hopefully have time for a few questions at the end. So what counts as movement? So the good news is that anytime you use your body in different ways during the day, this counts as movement. And movement is just another way of saying physical activity. And physical activity can be thought of in two ways, structured and unstructured. And so structured physical activity is, again, another way of just saying exercise. And exercise has a fitness goal attached to it, and that's what makes it structured. Versus your unstructured activities are all the other ways that you move. So it's brushing your teeth, showering, cooking, cleaning, gardening, mowing your lawn, playing with your pets or your kids, walking down the hall, drawing, singing. And these don't necessarily have fitness goals. You just do them as a part of your daily life. And while there are guidelines for how much physical activity you should get, my main message to you is any movement is better than none. So then why does movement matter? So movement can help you maintain and improve strength and function. It has multiple benefits for systems in your body. It can help with your mental health, your cognitive function, and your energy levels. But on top of this, it's really important to move in lots of different ways because you have over 600 muscles in your body. And so while you may hit a lot of those muscles with everyday tasks and activities that you enjoy, there may be muscles that you don't move quite as much and maybe not as all. And so that's where structured exercise can come in and really fill those gaps. And a lot of the things that I chose to go over with you all today are educated guesses on where some of those gaps might be. So I want to talk about some safety considerations because safety, of course, is our #1 priority. First and foremost, you want to make sure that before you do any exercise, you get cleared by your doctor. If you have any cardiac or pulmonary issues, you want to make sure to address these so that you're safe to exercise. You may also want to consult an exercise professional for a personalized program. Like I said, I'm going to present some things today that I hope are generally applicable, but I can't promise I'm going to hit on everything that's important to you. So it's really nice to have the opportunity to see someone like a PT or a personal trainer to make sure that you're doing the right things for your body. You always want to make sure you have appropriate footwear on that aren't going to slip or have your toes open and have really good support. So if you're with me in doing some things today, I really ask that you have appropriate footwear on. You also want to set up your environment for success. So especially if you're exercising in your home, you want to make sure you've given yourself room to move. So declutter your area, and that may mean also sequestering your pets in a different room. I have a dog who's a total jumper, and if you have a dog that's a jumper, that might not be the best thing to have around when you're trying to do balance exercises. Other things that are really great to have nearby are a sturdy chair and a counter countertop. And so again, if you're doing any exercises with me today, please make sure you have a chair and are somewhere near a countertop where that can help you keep your balance and support you in certain exercises. And last but not least, know your limits. This is a really important one. Always start easy. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And think about the level of intensity that you're experiencing when you exercise, because we want you to maintain a moderate level of intensity. And we're going to go over how to monitor your intensity level. But this is really important because if you are exercising at too high of a level, you can stress your body in ways that may be difficult to recover from in myotonic dystrophy. And we want exercise to enhance your quality of life, not detract from it. So keeping that moderate intensity exercise and knowing your limits in general is really important. So there are 4 main pillars of exercise, and we're going to address each of these tonight: flexibility, balance, strength, and aerobic. Flexibility can be done through stretching, which is holding a position for usually 30 to 60 seconds. It can also be moving through a range of motion, and this helps to reduce feelings of tightness, address muscle imbalances, and prevent injury. Balance training, we can work on postural alignment. We can work on integrating the different senses that are involved in maintaining your balance. And we can work on dynamic challenges to help you learn to react in certain situations. And this can help reduce fall risk and prevent injury. Strength training is really all about finding the right challenge for your muscles. So for some muscles, you might need additional weight. But some muscles may not need additional weight. It may be hard enough just moving them against gravity, in which case you can just move against gravity. But if gravity is really hard, we can also find ways to get you into positions where you don't have to fight against gravity and then move in that way. And strength training is great for affecting skeletal muscle mass, and it helps to improve connections between your brain and your muscle. Last but not least is aerobic. There's so many different ways to do aerobic training, but the main point is to increase your heart rate, increase your breathing rate, so that you're working cardiac, respiratory, and your skeletal muscles. So last thing before we get to the exercises is talking about how to monitor your responses. And this is really important. And depending on the type of exercise you're doing, there are different ways to think about how to monitor it. So to start with flexibility, I want you to think about the numeric pain rating scale, or the pain scale. This is something people are probably very familiar with. It's a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is no pain and 10 is the worst pain. When you're doing any sort of flexibility exercise, you may experience some discomfort, but you really want that to be on the very low end of the scale, no higher than a 3 out of 10. So next we'll go to cardio. Cardio, the easiest way to monitor whether or not you're working at the appropriate level is called the talk test. Okay, if you are able to continue exercising and still talk in short sentences, you're probably pretty good where you're at. All right, if you're getting to the point where you cannot talk, or you're only able to get out a word or 2 at a time, you're probably more up in the vigorous range, and you would want to maybe take a rest or move more slowly in order to let your heart rate and your breathing rate come back down again. So that's the talk test. And then the last scale I'm going to go over is for strength. And this is the Omni scale. It's another 0 to 10 scale. Moderate intensity on this scale falls at about 5 to 7. All right, so you should be thinking about how easy or difficult the activity is, and it should stay in the easy to somewhat hard range, but you never want it to feel like it's extremely hard. And another really important thing to keep in mind is that you want to avoid exercising to failure. And what I mean by that is if you are meaning to work your muscle in a certain way, you want to make sure that you have your form maintained while you're doing it. So for example, if you were working on lifting your arm out to the side, you'd want to make sure that you're able to keep your trunk steady and that you're not hiking your shoulder up or leaning over to the side. And if you start off being able to do it okay, and you get to a point where you start to compensate and move out of that ideal form, that's your sign to stop and take a rest. And that's totally okay. We want to make sure that then we give our muscles time to rest, okay? So you'll probably notice there's not a scale up here for balance. And that's because there really isn't one. But I want to ask you to ask yourself one question when it comes to a balance exercise, and that is, do I feel safe? And if the answer is no, then you do not do that exercise, okay? Balance is a really tough thing to do by yourself in the home. I am going to give you a couple of strategies today. But if you want to really challenge your balance, probably the best way to do that is with a physical therapist. And I would encourage you to do that if that's something that interests you. All right, so let's get moving. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to move my computer to a better place so that hopefully you all can see me. And is there any way I can become the big screen so I can see a little bit better, please? Perfect, thank you. Right. So let's make sure I've got it all in the space where you can see me. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do just a quick warm-up, okay? And warm-up is really important because we got to get our blood flowing a little bit, lubricate our joints, and it might even help reduce a little bit of myotonia before we get started. But hopefully your myotonia, if you're experiencing any, will get a little bit better as we go along because of that warm-up phenomenon. All right, so we're going to start from the top and work our way down. These should all be very gentle movements, okay? So we're just going to make some really small, easy circles with the head, going in one direction a few times. And then we can take that head, some small, gentle circles back around the other way. We're going to move next to our shoulders, and we're going to make some shoulder circles. So bring it up by your ears and then down and back. Going in one direction. And then we're going to move those circles forward. Really getting all those muscles in your shoulders and your back warmed up. All right. Next, we're going to bring our hands to our shoulders, and then we're going to make some circles with our arms or our elbows. You just think of drawing some circles with your elbows, going in one direction. And then we're going to reverse and go in the other direction. All right. Next, we're going to take our wrists and we're going to start to make big circles with our wrists. So that movement's going to come from your elbow and your forearm, but you want to think about drawing a big circle with your hands and your fists, and then going in the other direction. We're going to make some small circles with our wrists, okay? You can keep them low if it's hard to hold them up, but I'm just going to hold them where I think it's easier to see. And then going the other direction. All right. So next, we're gonna do some curving and some stretching up with our chest. All right, and I'm going to turn to the side so you can see, just kind of curling in and up. Get that trunk moving a little bit. And then we're going to squeeze our butt muscles. So this one it's not going to be a lot of movement. You might just kind of see me lift and lower just ever so slightly. That's just me squeezing my butt muscles together, but we got to get them woken up. Then we're going to do just a little bit of marching. Doesn't have to be big. Just wake up those hip flexors a little bit. And then we're going to make we're going to make some circles with our knees. We're going to come up and out and over. Up and out and over. Again, doesn't have to be super big. Just go in the range of motion that's comfortable for you. All right, and then we're going to do some kicks and bends, out and in with your lower leg. Working on getting those thighs warmed up. And last but not least, we're going to do some ankle circles. In one way, and then the other way. And if it's hard to hold your leg up like this, you can even cross your leg over, hold it with your arms. Circle those ankles one way, circle those ankles the other way. All right, so hopefully you feel a little bit warmer. And we are gonna jump into a little bit of balance. And I wanna talk about balance before we maybe get too tired, because this can take a lot of energy, even though the movements are not very big. So we're gonna talk about balance in 3 ways. One, we're gonna talk about base of support. We're going to talk about your senses, and we're going to talk about dual tasking, okay? So first, base of support. You can make anything challenging depending on the position of your feet, okay? So I'm going to stand up for this. Your center of mass is right here, and in order to maintain balance, your center of mass needs to stay between your base of support, so wherever your feet are on the ground. All right, so when your feet are wide, this is a much easier position to balance in. All right, it's really hard to get your body weight outside of that base of support. Okay, the narrower your feet are, the harder it is to balance. Okay, so feet together is going to be more challenging. Even more challenging is going to be what's called a semi-tandem stance, which is just taking a foot forward. Even more challenging than that is going to be fully tandem, where it's like you're standing on a balance beam or a tightrope. And then one of the most challenging positions is standing on one foot. Okay? So in general, picking whatever position you feel a mild challenge in is a good place to start. All right, so that's base of support. So now we're going to talk about senses, all right, because there's several senses that are involved in maintaining your balance. And I'm going to bring some kind of common things that might be helpful for balance, and we'll go over a few of those. So senses that are involved in balance, one is your vision. Okay, so being able to see what's around you helps your body know how to keep you upright. Okay, and so ways that you can challenge your vision, the hardest one is going to be closing your eyes. And honestly, I wouldn't really recommend doing eyes closed balance at home. Okay, it's just, as a physical therapist, it scares me a little bit to be giving people eyes closed exercises at home. But there are other ways that you can challenge your vision a little bit more if you want to, okay? So for example, you could dim the lights in a room, okay? Or one of my favorites is you can put on sunglasses, okay? So you can still see and there's still some light, but you're getting a little bit of challenge to your visual system. All right, so another sense that's involved is actually you have organs in your inner ear that communicate with your brain to tell you where you are in space. And by basically moving your head, you can challenge those organs in your inner ear, okay? And so when I say move your head, I mean just turning your head left and right or up and down, okay? No equipment necessary. All right, so then the final sense I'm going to talk about is your somatosensation. So you've got sensory organs in your skin, in your muscles that all, again, send signals to your brain about where you are in space. And ways that you can challenge your somatosensation is through unstable surfaces. Okay, so you probably encounter a lot of unstable surfaces in your life, whether that be grass or gravel or an incline. But one of the best ways you can do that in your home is by adding a pillow. And I would say avoid down pillows because they just compress so much that you end up just standing on the floor. But a good little couch throw pillow that's more foamy can be good. Now, that being said, always test it just under 1 foot to start with and always be holding on to something. And I would say that's true for any balance exercise, is that you always want to be next to a counter and have the opportunity to hold on to help get your bearings before doing anything else, okay? So I forgot one more thing about the base support. I mentioned all the standing, but if you can't stand, you can still do balance exercises because you can do them in sitting. So actually what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take some of the sensory stuff that we just talked about, and I'm going to do it in a sitting position. Okay, so we'll start with the vision. Okay, and if some of you want to follow along with that, you're more than welcome to. I'm just going to put on my sunglasses, and this is a visual challenge, a visual balance challenge. Again, if this is easy, you may want to try doing this in standing. Okay. And again, using whatever base of support feels right for you. So you might need to be wide. You can be narrow. You can stand on one foot and again, have the chair or a counter next to you and use what you need to help yourself balance. Okay. So that's a visual one. You can also challenge yourself with unstable surfaces. So this pillow, I can put on the floor and I can put my feet on it. And this might provide a balance challenge. Okay. Another option, you can sit on that pillow. All right. And now you've got kind of something a little wobbly under your butt. And that might be a challenge. Another way that you can challenge your balance in sitting is by using a ball. This is one of my dog's toys. Okay. You can put one foot on there. So now you're unsteady under on one foot. You're a little unsteady under your butt. And this can be a balance challenge. Okay. And then last but not least, vestibular system. And I kind of had already showed you that one, is that you can be sitting and do head turns. And this kind of mimics the type of activity that you might do when you're in a store. You're going down an aisle and you're scanning, you're scanning, you're scanning. You might need to look up at a shelf, down at a shelf. All right, so these are all vestibular challenges. You can also mix and match any of these. So you can sit on the pillow and wear sunglasses, or you can put a ball under your foot and turn your head. Okay, you can also do all of these in standing, but I would suggest trying some of them in sitting first, just to see how you feel. And then just do one challenge at a time if you do want to try them standing. And again, there's nothing better than having a physical therapist by your side to help make sure you stay safe. So if none of these feel safe, please definitely head to your physical therapist. So the last thing that I mentioned that I talk about regarding balance is dual tasking, all right? And you can do motor dual tasking or cognitive dual tasking. So for example, you could, for motor dual tasking, stand in a semi-tandem stance and pass this ball behind your back. Now you're thinking about what you're doing with your feet and you're thinking about what you're doing with your arms, okay? You can go the other way too. You can kind of pass the ball back and forth. So now you're actually getting your head and your visual system involved too, okay? You can also do cognitive dual task. And what I mean by cognitive dual task is that you do your balance challenge, whatever that is, and then you have to do something in your head at the same time, or you have to talk out loud in a certain way. So for example, one cognitive dual task might be saying the alphabet backward. Another cognitive dual task could be counting backward from 100 by 7. All right, so things like that, that kind of, you're having to do something with your brain, process with your brain, and then still maintain your balance, okay? So that's all I'm gonna cover about balance. But as you'll see, as we get into some of our strength and flexibility exercise, every single exercise that I picked today is meant to help some way with your balance. So these are not the only ways to do that. All right. So next, we're going to get into a flexibility exercise, okay? And now I'm going to get down on the floor for a bunch of exercises, okay? But if you can't get down on the floor, that's totally okay, okay? Because these are things that you could potentially do on your mattress, on your bed. so that you don't have to get up and down off the floor. And I'm also going to attempt to give you as many ways as possible to do these that could be in sitting or standing as well. All right, so hopefully one of these options will work for you. Okay, so we're going to do knees to chest. Okay, knees to chest is meant to stretch this lower back here. It can become very painful if you do a lot of sitting or standing. Or even when you sleep as well, your back can get very stiff. But in addition to prolonged positioning, sometimes if your abs are weak, your muscles in your back can get stiff as well, okay? So we want to do this to help alleviate any back pain and just kind of help with postural alignment as well, okay? So that standing position where you want to be straight up and down, all the stretches and strengthening that we're going to go over today are meant to help with postural alignment. So knees to chest, lying on your back, bringing those knees up and pulling them in, okay? And this can be done with your hands in front. They can also be done with your hands underneath, all right? So another option is just to bring one knee in. So if you want to keep one foot down and hug one knee in, and then do that same thing for the other side. That's also an option. All right, and then we can also do some rotations with our trunks. That means just kind of rocking our knees from side to side. All right, these can be really nice to do first thing in the morning, any of these exercises. A lot of people feel very stiff in their back when they wake up in the morning, and doing this before you even get out of bed can be really helpful for just getting you moving a little bit more, okay? So all of those things can be done in sitting. All right. So the double knees to chest, instead of pulling your knees in, you're going to let your trunk roll forward. All right. And I'm also going to show you this from the side. So if you're sitting up, just think about rolling and letting that back open up back there. Okay. Single knee to chest, you can kind of wrap your hands underneath and bring that one knee up. This does take a little bit of strength in your arms. All right. And then you can also do a rotation, a trunk rotation, but instead of rotating from your legs, you're going to rotate from your upper body. So you could just kind of put your arms across your chest, rotate from one side to the other. And that can also help your back get moving. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a quick pause so that we can try one of these exercises. Okay. So if there's one that you think you'd like to try, go for it. Remember that ideally you would stretch for 30 to 60 seconds and maybe do more than one set. But just for the sake of time, we're going to just do about 10 seconds for one of them. Okay, so I'm going to come down the ground and I'm just going to hold this double knees to chest for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Okay. So next we're going to move on to some core stuff. All right. Core is very important for helping to maintain your balance. And we're going to do all of our exercises in sitting, but these can also all be done lying down or standing up. Okay. So one is we can press on each leg. Okay. And when you press, you're thinking about pulling your belly button into your spine. Okay. If this is easy, you can also lift the knee and press into it. Okay. Good. All right. Now we can also do a little bit more of a rotation. So we can think about rotating and crunching, bringing that elbow, trying to bring that elbow to the opposite hip. Okay. These all work different muscles in your core, each of these exercises. Okay. We can also do side bends. So gently leaning to one side, coming back up, and then gently leaning to the other side. Okay, you want to make sure you're not leaning too far because you don't want to fall out of your chair, but wherever you can control, and you can kind of feel that right on the sides here. Last option is for the back muscles, and this would be letting yourself come forward and then letting yourself come back and doing a little squeeze at the top. So be gentle forward and up. And you're going to work your back muscles in both directions because they're helping control you going down, and then they're squeezing at the top. Okay? So those are all types of things that you can do. In standing, this is going to be very hard because you're going to be doing a lot standing on one leg. So these are really advanced exercises. Okay? These ones are not so bad. All right? And then the back ones, they can be a little challenge to your balance. So you'd really want to make sure that you feel safe doing that. Okay? And then on the ground, very similar. You can push. You can cross. These are going to be really hard because you're trying to lift against gravity. You can side bend. Try to reach for that heel. And to get your back, if you're lying down, you're going to have to lie on your stomach. And I know that can be a really hard position, okay? And try to come up. So again, that's a very advanced one. All right. So let's move up into the upper body, okay? So we're going to do some stretching of our pecs and our lats. And we're going to do that using an exercise that I call snow angel arms. So if anyone's ever done a snow angel, think about what you're doing with your upper body. You're kind of doing this motion, okay? Now, in order to do this, though, for a stretching effect, we're actually going to do it lying on our back, okay? And to show you some progressions, I have a few pieces of equipment here, all right? So on your back, you're going to be making, so you're only really going to be able to see this side of me here. You're going to start with your thumb facing out, slide it up over your head, let your pinky come to the ceiling, and then bring it back down again, okay? And you do this on both sides at the same time, ideally, all right? Just moving through that range of motion, stretching that pec and that lat. These can get really tight if you do a lot of sitting, and who doesn't do a lot of sitting? I know I'm at my desk a lot and you get hunched over and these muscles get tight. All right, so stretching them out can help with your posture. It also can help with your arm movement, okay? Because if you're hunched over, your arm can't get as high, okay, no matter what you do. So some options for this, if it's hard for you to move your arm out, you can use a yardstick to help, all right? So I just have this yardstick, hold in one hand, hold in the other hand, and then I'm using my one hand to help push that arm up, all right? So that's one way to do it, even if you struggle to do it actively. It's a little easier to use that opposite arm to push in this direction. If laying on your back, you're not really feeling a stretch in your pecs, you can roll up a bath towel and lay with it in line with your back. Now your back is elevated. You may also need a pillow under your head in this situation. But now when you open, you're more almost behind your body. And so this can give you a little bit more of a stretch. Just laying on a bath towel, okay? All right. So if these are lying on the ground or lying on your back is a no-go, it's very easy to do some of these things in sitting, okay? So I've got my chair, and I'm gonna sit next to a countertop, all right? And one of my arms, I'm gonna take to the side and just kind of bring it behind me, okay? And then you can think about turning your body away from the arm And you should feel a bit of a stretch right across the front there. Okay. Another option to get those lats is to face the counter, put your arms up, and then slide those arms forward. All right. So now we've kind of stretched our chest and our upper back a little bit. We're going to talk about strengthening it. So we're going to get some of these scapular muscles that are right around the scapula in your back. And these are muscles that are really important for posture, and they're really important for helping to bring your arm up over your head. Even if your arm muscles are really strong, if your scapular muscles are weak, you're never going to get your arm all the way up over your head. So in addition to that good posture, strengthening these scapular muscles so that your arm can go up is really important. So here's where you may want to consider a weight. And there are lots of weight type things that we can use. Little bottles, any of these things are really good. Or canned goods, okay? Any of these are good too, all right? If you have a hard time gripping something, you don't really need anything fancy to help hold on to it if you find the right sock, okay? So if you find the right sock, you can actually slip that over your hand, and now the can's not going anywhere, okay? Kind of weird, but it works. All right, so we're going to go over what I call a TYI arc, okay? It's going to be a little bit like YMCA, okay? So T, Y, I, okay? And we're going to be working in this 90-degree arc right here, okay? Now, to best work the scapular muscles against gravity, though, you need to get your chest down. So I'm going to show this to you in sitting, where you're resting your chest on your knees. You have your arms down at your side, thumbs are out. And then you lift out into that T. And now you're going to sweep through that arc. Pass through the Y, go to the I, and come back down again. T-Y-I, and down, okay? This is a really great one for strengthening your scapular muscles. If you have trouble supporting your head there, again, may seem kind of silly, but you can also do this in standing, okay? And you can rest your head on the countertop and still have access to this movement, okay? Now, if that feels impossible to you, one of the best ways you can do this without having to fight against gravity is to do scapular squeezes in sitting, okay? And that's just hands resting on your thighs. You're thinking about taking the shoulder blades and squeezing them together in the middle of your back and releasing. Again, I'll turn to the side. Squeeze, release. So you're not moving your head. It's all about the shoulder blades. Okay, so that's a really nice way to do that without having to fight against gravity. All right. We're going to move into stretching some hip flexors. These get really tight if you do a lot of sitting. All right. And it's really important because if your hip flexors are tight, it's hard to stand upright. Okay, and that's going to affect your balance. So one of the best ways to stretch your hip flexors, again, is in a lying down position, but this time on your stomach. All right, so coming in through here and just being up on your forearms, and you might feel a really strong stretch just right here. You want to make sure if you're feeling this in your back too much that you squeeze your butt muscles together, because that will take the pressure out of your back, okay? You can also think about kind of pulling your chest forward, and that's going to get a different part of your hip flexor, and that might feel really nice. If you're very lucky and you feel good here, You could also turn this into a little bit of a quad stretch, okay? This is really challenging. You can reach back for your leg and try to bring your heel in toward your butt. If that is not going to happen, there's a couple different things that you can do. Here I've got a dog leash and a belt. Okay, if you have a belt, you can just make a quick loop. All right. Or if you got your dog leash, you can take the handle end and you can put it around your foot. Put it around your foot. Okay? Before you lie down. Now, if you're lying down, you've got all this to work with. So if that's as far as you can go and you feel a really good stretch there, that's great. You can lay your head down. That will make it a little bit easier. If laying on your stomach is really hard, you can still also do this laying on your side. So I'm on my side, I have my strap, and now I help bring my heel toward my butt, thinking about sticking my hips forward as much as possible. Okay? If you don't like lying down, you can stand up and use your chair for this. Okay? Take your inside leg, put it up on the chair, holding on. Step a little forward. Think about tucking your hips under and forward, squeezing your butt, and you should feel a stretch right on the front there. Okay. All right. So now that we've stretched the hip flexors in the front, we need to strengthen the glutes in the back. So, one exercise you can do is bridging, okay? And these are the muscles that basically help to keep you upright more than any other muscle. So these muscles are really, really important. So you're on your back, bent knees, feet flat. You're gonna press through your feet, squeeze your butt, tuck your belly button in, squeeze and lift, and down, okay? This can cause a little cramping in your hamstrings in the back. And if that happens, think about pressing through your heels a little bit more, okay? You can make this harder by putting a pillow under your feet. You can make it harder by putting it into one leg, okay? Getting your glutes is hard to do in sitting, but it's not impossible. In order to do this, though, you do need to have some upper body strength, okay? So if you put your hands to the sides, walk your feet out a little bit, and then think about squeezing and lifting, okay? Squeezing and lifting. All right? Okay, so we got ourselves a glute exercise. So we're gonna move into your calves, all right? You can use that same dog leash or belt to stretch your calves, okay? I'm gonna show this to you on the floor, but you can also do the same thing in sitting or in standing. I'll give you examples of that. Take that loop, lasso your foot, and then pull toward you. Okay. You can also do the same thing with your knee slightly bent. It's gonna stretch a slightly different muscle on your calf if your knee is bent. And you might feel it in both places, or you might feel one more than the other, but both are correct. Okay. You can do that same sort of thing in sitting. Pulling up. You can also stand at a counter or behind your chair in a little bit of a stagger stance. Feel it in the back leg there with your knee straight, heel down. You can also bend the knee, let the heel lift, and you're going to feel it a little bit lower. All right. And I should mention briefly, calves are really important because if your calves are very tight, for example, if you're sleeping and your foot is kind of in this position, this pointed position for a long period of time, and then you go to stand, and you can't stand upright, it will push you backward. And that can really affect your balance. So maintaining that range of motion in your ankles is super important. And I know that that's something that can be a real challenge, especially in DM1, as the muscles in the front of your leg get weaker. So maintaining that at least a 90-degree angle in your ankle will help you with your balance. Okay, so the last two exercises we're going to go over kind of are for strength, but they're also for dynamic balance. Okay, and so this first one is heel and toe walking. And so in addition to kind of strengthening the back of your legs and the front of your legs, this helps with what's called ankle strategies for balance. And what that means is that when you kind of sway forward or backward, those muscles in the back and the front of your thigh, of your calf, help to pull you in the opposite direction. Okay, so heel walking might be really tough, especially in DM1, but bear with me. We're going to go through it, and then I'll give you some different options, okay? And then again, this is something that if you want to hold on to a countertop or be near a countertop, that would be very wise. So on your heels, walking along next to the counter. You can do the same thing with your toes. If walking like that is not happening, you can stand still. Okay, so you can stand still and just alternate between lifting your heels and lifting your toes. Again, if you need to hold on to help you balance, that's okay. Right? And if you need to isolate this, if you need to just do coming up, lifting up your heels, that's okay. Or if you need to just lift your toes, that's okay too. All right. And those toes and those heel raises, they can also be done in sitting. All right. So you can sit here and try to lift those up. And you can sit here and lift those up. All right. Multi-directional lunges. Basically, lunges work everything from here down. They're a great exercise. They also help with balance with what's called stepping strategies. So if you ever get jostled or you catch your toe in your trip, one of the ways you can catch yourself is by large stepping, okay? Catch your toe, step. Get pushed to the side, step, okay? But if you're not used to making those big steps, your body won't know how to react if that happens. And so doing multi-directional lunges is really good for this. So again, you can be next to your counter and just start small, okay? Small step forward, small step to the side, small step backward, okay? And you can repeat that going in one direction. You can reverse that going from back to side to forward, okay? And if you're comfortable with smaller, you can start to make those lunges larger. The larger they are, the harder they are, okay? So your ideal, or I won't say ideal, but your hardest lunge is going to be the one that steps way out in front. It gets you down here because then you have to push back, okay? Stepping out here, pushing back, stepping back here, pushing forward, okay? So most people will probably need to work somewhere in between, but that's okay, all right? So even if you're just taking small steps, you're still working on your stepping strategies. And as you become more comfortable, you can think about taking larger steps. And of course, make sure you do it on both sides, okay? Great. All right, we are so close to being out of time, so I want to show you one more thing regarding cardio, and then we're going to wrap up, okay? So for cardio, there are many ways you can do this in the home without equipment. You can walk up and down hallways, you can go up and down stairs if that's safe for you. You can dance. Dance is really fun. I know there's a Zumba webinar, which I hope you all attend. But what I'm going to show you is just using washcloths, okay? So you can put your washcloth on the floor, and this can also be a kitchen towel. It doesn't have to be a washcloth. And actually, you back up a little bit. And you can do lots of different motions sitting in your chair with washcloth under your feet. So I'm going to show you 6 different exercises you can do here really quickly. You can do the elliptical sitting here. Elliptical. You can swim. You can swim forward, but you can also swim backward. You can box. So you can throw some punches forward. You can throw some punches to the side if you're comfortable with that rotation. And if you're comfortable here, you can add in a leg. You can jump rope, lifting those heels, swinging those arms. Lots of different ways you can jump rope. You can do rowing, small forward to back, forward to back. The more comfortable you are, the further you can reach. And if you're really comfortable, you can add in some legs. Lean back and stretch the legs out. Bring them in, stretch them out. And lastly, you can speed skate, all right? You can start just with your trunk. Do a little speed skating, side to side motion. You can start to make it bigger. And then you can add your leg in. Speed skating. With all of this, you can make it easier by making the motion smaller or by making the motion slower. So always listen to how your breathing is, that talk test, and then take breaks as you need to. All right, so those are all the exercises that I had prepared. And so we're just gonna wrap up by taking a moment to talk about making exercise or making movement in general a habit. Okay, so just a couple of tips here. All right, so it's great if you want to have a movement goal. All right, sometimes that can help be a motivating thing, but you want to be realistic and flexible. So it's okay to start small and you want to be specific. So I want to move for 5 minutes, 4 days a week. Okay, that's very measurable, very specific. All right, but don't be afraid to change those numbers. All right, consider tracking your progress. It can be as simple as a check mark on a calendar or as complex as keeping an exercise diary. But it can be helpful to keep track, and that way you can celebrate your success. And that always feels really good when you have an opportunity to celebrate your success in whatever way that means for you. Think about what's going to work in your schedule, okay? What time of day works? What time of day do you feel good? What time of day do you know is going to be just god awful and you can't even consider it? What days of the week is it going to work for you? And how much time can you commit at any one moment, okay? And it's okay to split it up. So if you have a 10-minute goal, you don't have to do all 10 minutes at once. You can do 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, or even 3 minutes here and 4 minutes here and 3 minutes there, okay? It does not have to be all at once. And find a way to make it fun. Find a buddy. Having social support is really important. It can help keep you accountable. All right, so if you have a hard time keeping yourself accountable, sometimes knowing someone else is expecting you to show up can help. So find someone to exercise with. It can be really helpful. Create your soundtrack. I know for myself, exercise feels a lot more fun when there's music on. So find that album, make that playlist, do something to help make that background fun and really lift your spirits while you're exercising. And make sure you include movements you enjoy. Okay, so I'm sure that some of the exercises I showed you may not be your most favorite movements because they're challenging and they're things that we don't always think to do. So make sure you include things you enjoy along with the things that are challenging. Because if all you're doing is things that are hard or challenging, it's not terribly enjoyable and you may not be totally motivated to come back and do it. So make sure that you mix things in. Okay. And don't forget to check out the MVF exercise guide. There's some great things in there, some amazing resources. And I know we're really close to being on time, but thank you so much for attending. I hope you were able to take something positive away from this, or at least go back and watch it again and pick the exercises you want to try. And I'm happy to take questions if we have time.
We don't have any questions that came in quite yet. So I just want to be one with all of the other people in this webinar to thank you, Dr. Kelly, for that amazing run through of exercises that we can do at home and different things that we can add to challenge ourselves or to make it safer for us. I want to remind you all that this will be available for you to watch at home next week. We will upload it to the Digital Academy and email it out to all of you as well. So that is a great resource for you to come back and watch this again and really try to practice those exercises that Dr. Kelly shared with all of us. I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I am just going to remind you all as we end this webinar, we are going to ask for some feedback. You can go ahead and fill out our survey, which you will be directed to as we end this webinar. But thank you again to all of you for joining us, and thank you to Dr. Kelly for sharing those amazing exercises. And you will get them recorded next week for you to practice more at home. And be sure to consult with your own doctor or physical therapist before trying anything new. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kelly.